blazing piece of road, these cars are at home. And this track offers just the variety of challenges that these cars relish. This is round 6 in the Vodka Row Australian GT Championship. Well, the weather isn't looking the best this weekend at Mount Panorama for the Vodka Row Australian GT Championship. Cam McConville's with us today, and Cam, the question is, which car do you want to be in? Because I don't think the weather's going to be too kind.
Well, you never know at Bathurst noons, the changeable conditions, and it can be different at the top to the bottom of the mountain. If the heavens open up, you've got to think the Audi R8 is the car to be in. It's a good power to weight ratio, and of course it won the Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year. But if it buckets down, I think also the Lotuses could be in there, and that's what's ideal about this championship, a very mixed breed of cars.
We really love this championship, and these cars on this track will put on a great show. The championship fight is really close at the moment, so let's check in and update the situation. Here's Kylie King.
One driver has dominated the GT Championship this year, but leading into Bathurst, a new contender has emerged. Clark Quinn, driving his all-conquering Mosler, has produced 3 podium results from 5 rounds. But after a costly DNF at Phillip Island, Mark Eddy is now the championship leader, and his Audi could prove unstoppable here.
Aerodynamics on the car here, huge downforce, lots of grip. The car, we've got traction control, ABS. It's like a lounge chair. It's just sit back, pull those gears and keep the car off the wall. It's nice and easy to drive. Everyone should have one.
He may no longer have the edge in the championship standings, but Clark Quinn is determined to make up ground on a track he loves.
It's a two-part mix, we've got some sensational cars. The Mosler's an awesome car, and you bring it to the best track in Australia, and it's just an awesome combination. So, Bathurst is such an amazing track to go fast around.
Bathurst is a track that typically rewards experience. Greg Crick chalks up 40 years of competitive racing and shows no signs of slowing down as he prepares to power his Dodge Viper around the mountain.
Absolutely love the place. I've been here a lot of times in the past. Obviously from about 1989 onwards I've done a race here every year, I think. So, the place doesn't change. It's a fantastic place. There's something mystical about it, isn't there, for motor racing people?
And while the Mercedes SLS looks and sounds impressive, it's also been fast and reliable since its debut and could finally register a maiden round win here.
It's been frustrating. We've been second, I think, on 3 occasions. We won our first race for the SLS at Phillip Island at our last round, and we just need that round win. So a couple of good results. If the conditions stay changeable, it'll be tricky, but we're really confident.
But the dark horse this round could be tarmac rally specialist Kevin Weeks. His Lamborghini perhaps more suited to the slippery conditions.
The aero's good, so it'll be good in the wet. I just got to drive it fast in the wet. In the dry, I think we're going to be outclassed just because of the power. So around the fast bits will be good because the aero's excellent, but we just don't have the horsepower, don't have the grunt.
Stay with us after the break. It's race 1 from Bathurst in the Vodka Row Australian GT Championship.
Watching the Vodka O Australian GT Championship. The first of The two 30-minute timed races got underway in treacherous conditions.
Greg Crick on pole for the first time in 5 years in this series. Up to turn one, he will just slip back in the order now. We're hearing Cam from pit lane. He is starting on slicks. That's going to be tough on this track.
Yeah, 3 cars, 3 of the front runners starting on slicks, we believe. Crick, Eddie and Weeks in the Lamborghini. And for some reason, Noons, Bathurst this year is even less grip than normal. I think the bitumen's worn down a bit. There's been a lot of rain in the area over the last few weeks, so very, very tricky conditions on a slick tyre, pretty much undrivable until hopefully a dry line appears.
And you can see Greg Crick drifting back in the pack. Mark Eddy in the Audi struggling, but it's Clark Quinn who leads the way. Third in the series coming into this weekend. Peter Hackett in second spot. Kevin Weeks in the Lamborghini desperately trying to hold off Tony Quinn's Aston.
Traction control on the Lambo didn't look like it there. So a jump, oh, he's getting attacked.
Out of the way, coming through, the big Brit goes on by the big Aston Martin, the V12 power plant. This car won here last year, and Quinn will take off now and chase them down. You've got to be careful. No temperature in the tyres. Look behind. That was Mark O'Connor in the white Lotus. It was the pole-sitting car in the challenge class coming back for the first run since it was crashed at Winton. That's how much these big cars on slicks are struggling.
Yeah, whoa, speaking of,
whoa, Peter Boylan as well. This is at McPhillamy Park. And I wonder if Boylan's tripped over Crick. There's damage to the right rear of the 997 GT3 Cup car. Boylan leads the championship in the challenge class. We're on board with Crick in the Jeep Viper. Uh-oh. Oh, wham!
I was just thinking, Nunes, he did a great job of keeping it off the wall, Greg Crick. I'm not sure. It was just a little bit early picking up the throttle, and this is for the lead, so Hackett goes through.
And this is a replay of Hackett in the Merc, getting by Clark Quinn for the lead.
No doubt there'll be a safety car.
On the very next lap after the restart, another safety car was needed.
Kevin Weeks, the Super Lock Lamborghini, running on slicks at the moment. He's got to be really careful. He's put a right rear on the white line and he's gone.
Big off, a lot of speed. Car's got airborne, so just got a little bit greedy there and clipped the white line as he's turned the car in. Probably not a lot of damage though.
Have a look at the replay. The winner from Townsville just steps it out. And look at this, bang, it just snowplows its way through the grass, damages the front. Not too much damage, but it just fills it full of grass.
When racing resumed for the second time, Mark Eddy was on a charge.
Hackett leads us back to the control line, then the Queens, then O'Connor, then Ian Palmer, who started at the rear, and Mark Eddy starting to look a bit more comfortable on the slicks.
Certainly is a bit of a dry line. You can still see some spray off the back of the Merc there, Peter Hackett, so it's still pretty wet, but with the traction control, the amount of downforce, ABS of the Audi R8, it really is just marvelling in these conditions.
And it's a 5.2 litre V10 engine going past the 8.3 litre V10 Viper of Ian Palmer, but it's Hackett who leads the way. Mark Eddy, championship leader, fighting through. Now, Mark O'Connor is next on the list, and I think I want to be in the Audi right about now. It's a much bigger car.
I've got to say though, Nudes, fantastic effort by Mark O'Connor to be actually running P4 on the road. So the little Lotus, not a lot of grunt as you'll see up the straight here. The Audi will just gobble it up, but clearly on a wet circuit, a very quick car across the top of the mountain.
And it's this Lotus that takes on, well, there's two other Exige S's in the field of the challenge class, as well as a range of Porsche 997 GT3 Cup cars, but this little car leads the way in challenge class at the moment.
But it was Peter Hackett who mastered the slippery conditions.
This new Merc is learning how to win. It won the last race at Phillip Island in the GT Series, and it's going to win race 1 at Mount Panorama. Being on wet weather tyres has been just the recipe, and Hackett wins on the mountain. Clark Quinn will be second and will eat into Mark Eddy's championship margin. And it never hurts too when you've got your dad holding up the championship leader. Tony Quinn gets home in third. The Audi is fourth. 4 different cars in the top 4 positions in the championship class. O'Connor wins in challenge from Nathan Tinkler, but the Merc is the car of the moment.
Peter, it seemed a near faultless performance.
Maybe from the outside, it wasn't that easy on the inside, I can tell you. To start with, you know, we didn't know whether to go with wets or dries. That was a big decision. All the senior management of our team, Erebus Racing, were involved, and ultimately we took the safe option and tried to build as big a gap as we could. You could lose the race early on slicks, but it would have been a lot harder to lose it on wets.
Up next, it's all the highlights from race 2 at Bathurst. This is round 6 of the Vodka O Australian GT Championship. Before race 2 started, there were some last-minute changes.
So everyone has come out on wet weather tyres. They're all in now to change to slicks, but Peter Hackett is staying on the track on wets. This is very strange, Cam. Barely any cars. It's like the US Grand Prix from a few years ago.
Well, he's going to be chasing the real extreme edges of the racetrack to try and cool those wets off, and the Michelin wet is quite a deep cut soft tyre. It's not going to last long at all, so the tyre choice that made him look good in race 1 looks like it's going to go against him in race 2 unless we have a massive downpour really quickly.
Kevin Weeks was trying to make the most of his lucky break.
Now the Lamborghini started from position 12, and remember too, he started on slick tyres, so he made the right decision.
He did. It's not a lot of room there, trying to sneak past over Skyline. The Viper will stretch its legs down the straight, so he'll have to try and slide through into Forest Elbow if he can. Bit tricky this one. Do you go for dry or wet? So he's gone down the inside all right, but gets through cleanly.
And this car is engineered by former V8 supercar engineer Oscar Fiorinado, and now it chases the Lotus.
Mark O'Connor's little Lotus was holding its own in the tricky conditions.
Hey Cam, which one do you want to be in, Lotus or Viper?
At this point, Viper, but as we get into the braking zone, probably the Lotus. So,
well, that's hanging on though, up the run.
It's a quick Lotus this weekend.
Yeah, it's a very quick little car, and Ian Palmer started rear of grid in race 1 and is still working his way through. Here comes the charge of the cavalry, the cars that started from the pit lane with slick tyres on. Eddie and Clark Quinn, the 2 championship combatants.
The 2 championship frontrunners were powering through the field.
This is tight up the top, and Clark Quinn is putting massive pressure on the Audi R8. Of course, Mark Eddy, former series champion and runner-up in this year's Bathurst 12 Hour.
A lot more comfortable in these conditions, Clark Quinn. The Mosler not ideally suited to the full wet. Doesn't run all the electronic aids as some of the opposition, like the Merc and the Audi in front of him, so a lot more competitive in this race.
Coming up on Mark O'Connor in the Lotus. And Clark Quinn's going to have a look and a dive, but he'll follow the LMS R8 through Forest Elbow, and he's in the fence.
Definitely clipped the wall there, Nunes, on the exit, so could be some steering damage depending on whether he had much lock on at that point. Hopefully for Clark's situation, he had the wheels straight.
Oh, and Eddie goes right to the grass, down Conrod to get by Ian Palmer in the Viper. Talk about using all the road.
He didn't make it easy for him. Now, that is a wide car, the Viper, but that was ridiculous. You're on a slick tyre, the edges are wet, and Eddie just kept the foot flat and got through, as has Clark Quinn now. So the Viper just dropping off the back, and this one's for the lead.
Kevin Weeks up the inside, and Peter Hackett can't fight. Remember, he is on wet weather tyres, expecting the rain to come, but it hasn't yet.
Look, his race is over, Nunes. He's going to have to pit because the Michelin wet will be getting so hot it'll start to blister, then it'll tear chunks off the tread blocks and likely to delaminate, so Hackett's race will be over.
So Kevin Weeks started, remember, from 12th on the grid, but didn't have to pass all of those cars because some started from pit lane. This is one of them. Mark Eddy third, Clark Quinn is fourth, Palmer fifth and O'Connor sixth. Here's the replay of the elbow, and it's a small bump, but you don't want to do that. This is where it's at. Championship combatants getting stuck into it across the top. Eddie in the Audi, Quinn in the Mosler. You are looking at this year's GT champion. It's just a case of which one.
A little bit of smoke off the right rear, so whether that's related, he's tried the big lunge.
Didn't try it, got it done. Great move from Clark Quinn, and the 7-litre V8 Mosler is through, but this Audi that's run by the boys at Melbourne Performance Centre is a good thing in a straight line. The big German thoroughbred is tucked up in the toe, and it's even lifting the wiper.
Look at that. And he's struggling to hold the toe now. The Mosler just bolts, so a lot of top-end speed, flat through the chase, and then hard brake back through the sequential gearbox. And very impressive straight line performance, the VIP Pet Foods Mosler.
Over the top and dropping down through to the dipper. They have caught the Merc. Peter Hackett still on wet weather tyres, desperately trying to hang on. He's looking to the sky and he's not seeing any precipitation. It's not good.
I just wonder whether they had the opportunity prior to this race to have a good look around the circuit, or probably weren't able to get spotters around, because it was definitely completely dry, but perhaps they got the weather radar out and there's something coming, but unfortunately it's going to come too late.
And this is the beauty of GT racing. Although these races in the championship aren't essentially endurance races, they're kind of mini endurance races where you do have to take strategy into account. You do have to take the weather here at Bathurst this weekend, and we're seeing such a mix of cars running at the front. It's the beauty of this form of racing.
Oh, it certainly is. And next year, 458 Ferrari, Nissan GTR and LP600 Lambo. It's only going to get stronger, but Hackett's finally in the pits.
He's conceded defeat. He's coming in for slicks.
Next, it's the race to the flag in the Vodka O Australian GT Championship. This is the Vodka O Australian GT Championship. Mark Eddy was starting to get on top in the battle for second, but Clark Quinn was not giving up without a fight.
What we've seen with this Mosler is that Clark is really good across the top of the mountain, Cam, and he's got a good run here.
Carried a lot of mid-corner speed. Oh, there's a rub. Oh, nothing between them.
From here on in, is where Quinn is really, really solid. This Mosler is very strong, but he's right up against the wall. He's right on the edge at the moment. He's in the curve, he's in the wall almost again. He's got to be so careful. Step off line and it's still wet.
He's pretty ragged, really. If anything, actually, I think the Audi carried too much mid-corner speed, ran wide, and look at this. Bit of contact, a little bit cheeky by Mark Eddy. He actually moved across.
Eddy eventually broke away from Quinn and then quickly closed in on the race leader.
The Audi is stalking the Lamborghini. Both cars have won races this year. Eddy won race 1 in the last round at Phillip Island. He also won a race at Winton. Kevin Weeks has tasted a bit of success. He won the last race at Townsville, so you've got 2 cars that know how to win, but in this race, the Audi's got it covered.
Just used the ABS there as he braked right into the apex of the corner, so a much faster car.
For the last part of the race, all eyes were on the battle between the Mosler and the Lamborghini.
The leader, Mark Eddy, has cleared away, and Clark Quinn desperately needs to clear the Lambo. Remember, Kevin Weeks is 12th in the championship. He's not a factor in the point score. Clark would desperately love to steal these points.
And this is where he's been strong. Oh, he's on the inside. There's no grip there. You can see the dirt off the back tyre. And now he's got to run down the straight. Should have equal to, if not more, grunt. But probably got his exit compromised there by Kevin Weeks.
Down Conrod, the Italian Lamborghini against the British-built American Mosler. And this is where these cars, with all their aero, are so quick. Flat strap through the chase. But Clark Quinn knows he needs to get moving. There's just 1 round left after this weekend. Down at Sandown in November, there's not much time to catch Mark Eddy in the championship, and he has to get a move done on Kevin Weeks. He has a little bit of a look, but he does look like he's got the pace.
Quick across the top of the mountain, Noons. The Lamborghini moving around a little bit.
Quinn spent several laps trying to push his way past Weeks, and the fight continued on the final run to the flag.
Back up Mountain Straight. The last lap. Mark Eddy is comfortably out in front. These two are fighting over second spot. Tony Quinn is 4th, and Ash Samardi, the Mosler, is a bit further back on the road.
You just wonder how long he's going to sit behind for it. Obviously, this is going to be it. Not quite close enough, though, at the cutting this lap, you'd think.
Oh, Weeks is slow and Quinn will dive. Bang! Excuse me, Lambo. Who cares about the Lambo? He's just dinged it.
He came from a long way back. I think he made the call on coming in. Was either going to be there or Forest Elbow.
And Weeks left the door open, so he gave him an incentive.
Just a fair bit of damage. Let's have a look. So he's gone right out wide, made the call. Oh,
actually, he didn't really. He was mid-road there, and Quinn was not taking no for an answer.
That's as aggressive as it gets.
Mark Eddy, though, championship leader. He said this thing's like a lounge chair. It's a very good lounge chair. I wouldn't mind having one of these at home. But he is on his way to win race 2 at Mount Panorama. Mark Eddy in the championship puts himself in the box seat. He finished 2nd in the 12-hour with Craig Lowndes and Warren Luff earlier in the year. He comes back in October and picks up a win. But Clark Quinn through to 2nd. He has been an excitement machine, and he is going to win the round without winning a race. It's just the 2nd time in GT Championship history that that's happened.
And Andrew McPherson wins the challenge class race, but Mark O'Connor takes out the round in that category.
Mark Eddy, though, winner of race 2, 2nd for the weekend, and very happy.
Well, Mark, you certainly salvaged something out of the weekend.
That was a great race for us. We had to work really hard after the wrong tyre choice this morning, but made the right tyre choice changing those slicks, so that was fantastic.
But Eddy falls just 1 point short. Clark Quinn gets the round win. Peter Hackett manages to get onto the podium. Tony Quinn 4th, but for Clark Quinn, it's his 3rd round win of the season.
Clark, what a race. You made a great move at the end there.
Me and Kevin Weeks had just an awesome water race, and you know, there's a couple of times where I had to give him a couple of nudges just to let him know I was there. I don't think he saw me, mustn't have. But you know, 1 lap to go, I had nothing to lose but get in there and commit, and commit I did. And you know, we certainly weren't the fastest car on the track, but we were the toughest out there, so it was pretty cool.
And Quinn is the only man now who can stop Eddy, 46 points behind with 1 round to go. Greg Crick's terrible weekend drops him to 3rd. Ash Samardi 4th. And in the challenge class, Peter Boylan still leads the way from Tim Poulton. But for Clark Quinn, he wins on the biggest stage, Mount Panorama Bathurst. And there's 1 round to go. The final round at Sandown in Melbourne in November. Will it be Mosler or Audi? wait and see. Thanks to Cam McConville and the whole team here at Bathurst. We'll see you next time for the final round in the Vodka Row Australian GT Championship.